getting the four of us into bed was a real struggle at times. And if you ever had the opportunity or challenge of putting kids to bed, I'm sure you'd agree. And this is exactly why my mom came up with a game. A game you might even know too. In principle, it was a racing game. Well, the first of us to be in bed would gain 5 points, the second 4, and so on and so forth. We could also lose points. But then when we gained 50 or so points over a few days, we could exchange these points for a sticker. Now, that was really cool for us. And trust me, going to bed was never easier. It was never better, actually. And for the next few weeks, bedtime meant racing time. But I'm sure you realize that my mom's intention wasn't really to entertain us. My mom's intention was to teach us some better bed night routines. Now, looking back, that game is what I would call today a serious game. And basically, that is the definition of a serious game as you would find it in many textbooks and research articles. Serious games in today's world are video games mostly concerned with education. The topics and the variety of serious games is immense. But when we look at them from a different perspective, what we see is that they have at least 5 things in common. So I guess you could say that the first thing is the story element. Although it is by no means essential, most serious games do have some sort of story or plot. A second element is gamification. All serious games include one or several elements of gamification, such as rankings, badges, rewards, or point systems. Now, the third element of serious games is feedback. And the next element I'm going to talk about, and that most serious games have in common, is simulation. Most serious games are based on a real-life situation, reproducing or imitating the situation in one way or the other. Well, by using fictitious characters and by recreating real life-related scenarios, players find themselves immersed in a world similar to the one they will find beyond their computer or smartphone screen. And it is quite obvious when I say that simulation allows players to gain knowledge and practice skills in a new reality. However, in the end, what we aim to achieve is that this knowledge or the skill is transferred to a real-life scenario. And this really brings me to the last element of a typical serious game. The serious intention to teach something. All the elements I have just mentioned before can also be found in various commercial video games. But that does not necessarily make these games a serious game. The purpose to teach something and the serious intention is what in the end defines a serious game. Research also shows that some games even have a negative learning outcome. So before you use the game, you really want to be sure that it's a good game you're using for your learning and training purposes. And one way of doing so is by going through these different elements. And if you go through the different elements of the serious game, you can look at the story. And when you look at the story, you can ask yourself, do you like the story? Is it rich and appealing and fun in any way? You can also look at gamification elements closely. Do these elements seem reasonable to you? Do they gratify learning outcomes or behavior that you think is a good? Is it something you want to have gratified? Also, check the feedback mechanisms. Does the game provide you with useful, individualized, and immediate feedback? If yes, that's probably a good sign. And then also evaluate the setting. Do you believe that the simulated setting really allows you to learn and acquire a skill and then transfer it to the real-life scenario? Finally, and very carefully, evaluate the serious intention of the game. Make sure that the game really teaches what you aim to learn. For example, when we look at human children and also mammals, we see that learning and playing are very, very closely related. It's safe to say that games and learning have a lot in common. And in my opinion, it is not very surprising for this reason why serious games are becoming more and more popular. Connecting the desired outcome or behavior with points or reward systems pushes individuals to show exactly that behavior. The main reason why we play serious games is because, and why we find them engaging, is because we're intrinsically motivated. They intrinsically motivate us. So one reason we might like games is because we like a good story. But there's also theoretical explanations why we are intrinsically motivated to play certain serious games. One explanation can be found when we look at the three basic needs explained in self-determination theory. These needs are autonomy, competence, and relatedness. Serious games are fun and exciting because they're motivating. Extrinsically motivating because most of them include some sort of reward system, and we do like to gain points and have rewards. Intrinsically motivating because many serious games allow us to meet our three basic needs and let us experience a state of flow. When we play serious games, we learn more and better because we have a higher cognitive activation, because we are activated more, we are interacting more intensely, and we have more realistic interactions compared to, for example, when we learn with a book. But there's other benefits to serious games too that I would like to mention. First of all, the experience. Serious games really offer us a real experience. It's not like reading a book. It's like we're doing something, and that is a real experience, and that is rather unique for issue or example of serious games. A third benefit is protection. When we play serious game, we can always play these games in a simulation, in a simulated scenario. So it doesn't matter if we make mistakes or if something goes wrong, there's no negative output for ourselves or for the people we're working with. So this protection factor is a really important benefit of serious games. Another benefit is the fact that serious games are reusable. Reusable in two ways. First of all, we can always reuse a serious game. For example, the game my colleagues and I designed is often reused in different training settings, right? But we can also reuse different elements of serious games or a game we have that is designed for one specific skill, and we can always adapt it to train another skill. So this quote really says that you have to pay attention not to just use a serious game because everyone else is using one or because you just think it's cool, but because you really have a learning purpose and because you really think that serious games are something that can add a value to your learning experience.